Hi, and welcome back to episode 6 of Quad Pod. My name's Alistair Yates. You probably know me by now. As we always do in the start of the show, I want to say a few thank yous. I'm going to say thank you to Peter from FC Chattanooga for coming on the show and giving us a really good insight into our second cheeky football club that we part own as Exeter fans. I also want to shout out to all the people in the US that have downloaded the show. I've seen a real surge, and it's all those FC Chattanooga fans, and particularly looking forward to meeting Breezy shortly, which will all be revealed in a couple of weeks. Also want to thank you to Luke at Turton Talks and Russ for getting me on the transfer show. So today is transfer deadline day, and we'll do a little bit at the end of where we are. It's absolutely manic. Once you've listened to our guest, I want to say shout out to those also in Romania and Bosnia that are downloading the show. Really wasn't expecting to see that. Positive news since the last podcast, MK Dons away. Absolute great performance, and I particularly, again, want to say thank you to some friends of the show that invited me and my family into a box up there to actually see the game, which meant that we got free tickets. And having been interviewed by AFC Wimbledon, or doing an interview with AFC Wimbledon, I just want to put a shout out to them that I was particularly pleased because I didn't actually pay for a ticket. Shh, don't tell everybody. 650 City fans, and of the boxes near me, actually 3 lots of Exeter City fans in 6 of the 3 boxes near me. So MK Dons was a great one. Right, so this episode, always really looking forward to it. This one took 3 or 4 months to actually get into the bag, and it involved talking to our guest's son. He's a top 5 all-time goal scorer, I think, with Exeter City. Enjoy the show. Hi, and welcome back to Quad Pod. It's episode 6, series 1. I say this about all my podcast interviews. I am so looking forward to this one. I'm going to really embarrass myself. I feel like a kid again. Well, sorry, when I say a kid, because he's not that old, I feel like I'm about 22. Now, picture the scene. Exeter City, this is 20 years ago, absolute turmoil. We are really struggling off the field, and this gentleman joined Exeter City. Now, I'm going to talk through in the podcast with him, hopefully, the early stages of his career. I think there's actually potentially, and he's very kindly suggested to do that we could do 2 parts. So I'm really thankful on that, because interestingly also, not only was he a top 5 legendary striker, I'm embarrassing now for Exeter City, right? He was also a trustee of the Exeter City Supporters Trust. So, started off at Millwall, Wycombe, Bromley, Fisher Athletic, played for Anathosis Famagusta in Cyprus, which for all those clubbers out there is near Ayia Napa, Barnet, Wycombe, Lone, Wycombe, and then Exeter City. If you haven't worked it out by now, can I introduce Sean Devine? Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great, mate. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure, honestly. So, younger fans, I'm going to show my age a bit. As I said, probably won't know. Well, some of them might not know about you because there's multiple generations that have come through, and it is slightly apart to some of the work you did, as you know. So, if you look at Giovanni Brown, Sam Numbe, Jaden Stockley, we're talking that level for our younger supporters. Now, my first question to Sean, right, is if you, describe your football style. I think you're a sniffer in the box. What would you describe yourself as?
Probably just an out-and-out goal scorer. But if I'm being totally honest, I couldn't do much else. So I just used to try and get myself in the box and if chances would appear, just try and put them away, which I thought I had a good knack for, and sort of forged a career out of it.
I'd say, and so for example, some of your stats now. Wikipedia is normally my friend, and it wasn't my friend. There's a lot of question marks on your early stage of career, and I'm really keen to get into that. It's not just about Exeter City, this podcast, it's about people. So I believe you started off at Millwall. Is that right?
Yeah, I was playing, at the time, I was playing Sunday League football for a team called VCD. We used to play in the Kent Youth League, and it used to have a lot of teams in there that like pro clubs, but they'd have their sort of like 16s that would become their next lot of apprentices.
Yeah.
So I used to play for that team VCD, and we used to play against a side called Canterbury, which was basically Millwall's next crop of apprentices.
Okay.
So I played against them twice, scored 2 goals in both games. Funny enough, in the second game, ended up having an argument with a manager who was a scout for Millwall. Right. And he approached me after, and we sort of both said sorry. And he said, "Would you like to go down to Millwall for a trial and maybe train?" So went down there, had the trial, and then ended up signing, and then went on to sign pro forms for Millwall.
Brilliant. And can I just say a little shout out for my wife's side of the family? They are Millwall, and also Bromley. My wife's from Bromley.
Oh, right. Okay.
So a little bit of symmetry there. So you played at Bromley as well, didn't you?
Yeah, when I got released from Millwall, obviously just trying to get a club at the time, and then didn't get any pro offers, and then spoke to Bromley, and then sort of liked what it was about, and then then sort of went over there and see what I could do, and it was a decent standard of non-league, and then it was just getting over there to try and sort of get my career back going and get myself back on the map again.
So in terms of, they're actually doing a lot, doing really well at the moment, aren't they, Bromley? Would that be semi-pro type level?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was about 2 or 3 leagues down from the football league. So it was a good stepping stone for me. Obviously, still being quite young, coming out the pro game, sort of still staying in and around a decent level, and somewhere where you can sort of apply your trade, I suppose, and get used to the physicality of sort of going into senior football. And it did help, to be fair.
And something that you've had quite a career in terms of it. It looks like you've had a few challenges along the way, because somewhere, and I've lost my way a little bit, you had an opportunity to go to West Ham. Things were going well. Was that before Barnet or?
No, that was why I was at Barnet. The manager at the time, John Still, he had some links with West Ham, and they'd been watching me for years, like even when I was playing non-league football. Frank Lampard Senior was watching me then, and other scouts from West Ham, and finally got the opportunity to go over there, and I played in a testimonial for Harry Redknapp at Bournemouth.
All right,
yeah, done really well in the game, and just things happen, and they wasn't quite sure on me. There was rumours going around that I'd be signing. It was very, very close, but it didn't materialise, and just ended up staying at Barnet. But was a little bit gutted, really, because it's everyone's dream to probably play in the Premier League and play for a Premier League club, and obviously coming from a lower level to get into that sort of level would have been a good achievement for me. But listen, it wasn't meant to be, but I can't argue. I had a great career, done something I loved, and I was just grateful for the opportunities that I had.
So, and your stats at Barnet, for example, really, I'm going to embarrass you, and I think you're probably, going to feel uncomfortable. 126 games, 47 goals. You must have been pretty popular down at Barnet, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. you look at it's half decent, but the time that I had there, I did have quite a lot of injuries. I'd say quite a lot. I had one major one where I didn't really play for a season, so I missed the season there. Also, didn't get on with some managers there, so lost a lot of playing time, which was obviously not just down to them, but down to me as well. You reflect a lot on your career when you get older, and sometimes you just wish you'd have kept your mouth shut or done things different. But that's it is what it is. But yeah, it's not bad. I'm quite pleased with that. But always could have done more and done better.
So, and this leads on because I think you initially then went to Wycombe Wanderers. You played 7 games on loan and scored 6 goals. So, and that was part of a really good period, I would imagine, in your football life, because I know that you went on to play another 82 games and 36 goals while you were at Wycombe. And I think at the time you were really starting to get noticed, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even, when I went to Wycombe on loan, I wasn't even getting in Barnet's first team. I was just like, surplus to requirements, really, weren't going anywhere. And then I was at a game, funny enough, a midweek game, and I was warming up, and Terry Gibson was on the sideline, and obviously he used to be at Barnet. He used to do the youth there, and he just said to me, "What's happening with you?" And I just said, "Well, it's not playing, not in favour." And he said, "Leave it with me." And then that's when I got the chance to go to Wycombe on loan. And obviously at the time when I went there, they were bottom of League One and really struggling. And I went there with 12 games to go, and ended up scoring 9 goals in 12 games. And it went on.
Relegated, I didn't you? You were part of saving them from relegation at the time.
Yeah, and along with all the other boys that come in and that were there, and we just all sort of got together and really give it a good go, and I managed to avoid relegation. So that was, even though it's at the wrong end of the table, it was something that I feel was a little bit of an achievement, going there sort of with 12 games to go and contributing with 9 goals.
And definitely you were getting a reputation. So now this leads me on nicely to Wycombe and then to Exeter City. So I think, was it Laurie Sanchez would have been your manager at the time?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because Terry Gibson was his assistant at the time, and then obviously they were looking for a striker, and then obviously working with Terry at Barnet, obviously said to Laurie, maybe look at getting Sean in. So Seb went down there, and the rest is history. I had a really good a good 2.5 years, and then I got a really bad injury. I didn't play for nearly 2 seasons, which really set me back. But all in all, great club, really enjoyed it. And it just sort of gave me that opportunity to get back playing and scoring goals when things weren't going great. So I really appreciate, the time that I had there, and for them, bringing me on board.
And then transfer fees, right? A bit of history about Exeter for those listening in. I think us shelling out a transfer fee for a player at the time was probably unheard of, I would say. But I'm glad to say that Exeter took a punt on you, shall we say? So £70,000. And remind me, who was your first manager at Exeter?
I think
was it Alex?
No, my actual first, because I come just after Christmas, the season that we got relegated, and I can't remember. Was it Gary? I can't think of his name.
Gary, yes, I know you mean. He probably wrongly got sacked. Got on straight at my head. I can see him now. Yes, Gary. We'll call him Gary for the.
I can't. I always forget his second name. I'm useless for names anyway. He come in for that and done really well. And as you see, we only just sort of got picked on the last day, really. I think Swansea ended up staying up in the end. But first full manager would be Eamon. God bless him. So had a good season under Eamon. Then went on to Alex Inglethorpe,
Yeah.
And then obviously I left City and then went overseas to play in New Zealand, in Australia.
Yeah, I see that with New Zealand Knights. Just getting back to that Gary thing's really annoying me, but it will come back for the benefit of everybody in the show. That's a cardinal sin. I'll make sure it's noted in the bit. Right.
I'm just as bad. I can't remember.
I can see it with his face. So, Eamon, now Eamon, we loved him to death, right? And a bit of context for, again, some of our younger supporters. He was managing the club at a particularly difficult time, and I think it was Barnet we played. Which was it Barnet? It was the last game, a midweek evening match.
Yeah, correct.
At that game, there was about 3,500, and I think we got beaten. But the abiding memory of that game for me was seeing the whole stadium still stayed to thank him. Yeah. And then obviously he fell ill. So at the time, what was it like? Money around the club, the hullabaloo, because we were going into administration and stuff at the time, weren't we? What was it like?
It was hard. It was difficult. I think it was hard. It was difficult for everyone: players, fans, staff, board, everything. It was just, one of them things. Where do we go from? What do we do? To get this club going again. And by the grace of God, you guys stepped in. The trust got together, was formed, and it helped save the club. And as I say, without that, where would Exeter be now? So it was, obviously great work from you guys and all the hard work and commitment to keep the club afloat.
And in terms of the spirit of the time, right? And remind me, we were living obviously without any money. Did we not go on coaches occasionally that were borrowed, shall we say, from other football clubs? Do you remember that?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I sort of wouldn't have been told or know about that, but it probably would have been, yeah, because the club was in, a bad way at the time. I remember turning up for the first day of pre-season at the Cat and Fiddle, and I think Eamon was out there marking lines, you know what I mean, to try and get some sort of area to train on. It was, it was quite, hard times, but I think with his passion and his drive and wanting to succeed, he sort of got it by the scruff of the neck and made a good go of it and got us, into some sort of a good side and a side really that we should have at least made the playoffs that year when you think with the quality that we still had in the squad. There's some. I was looking through some of the games and going through the stats. You tend to forget things, or I do. And this is going to sound wrong because I thought you scored more hat tricks than you did. But you actually scored a lot of braces for Exeter. Particularly, my memories are a hot day in Forest Green, winning 5-2. That one sticks in the memory, and also the Burton game, for the benefit Burton and Albion were at the time. It's going to sound wrong, proper non-league, shall we say? We had a bit of a ding-dong 4-3, which you scored 2 goals. What would you say were your biggest highs at Exeter and also your biggest lows following on? Obviously, a big low was obviously getting relegated and then, the club going through a bad time. But then obviously the highs were, around a great bunch of lads, really. We had a good side there, had a lot of experience, had a lot of younger boys as well. And I think we just all sort of got together and thought, right, there's nothing else we can do but try and move forward and try and do the best we can. And I think that's what we've done. And then obviously that led to the FA Cup run where we ended up, drawing Man United and the rest is history with that one.
So and with that one, we could I think we could talk about Man United for hours. So you were captain that day, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was. Yeah, it was
So
good.
so we've drawn Man United. Right, the place is going absolutely mental, as we both recall. Right. What was it like game day? What did you do? Did you go up the Friday night before? How did it all transpire? Because people like me were running minibuses from Oxfordshire at the time and going into service stations where at the time the coach drivers were marshalling sort of like 50 coaches going into Stafford services. You wouldn't have seen any of that, right? Because obviously you were up there. And to picture the scene, I've never seen anything like it when I got onto the M6 or from the M6 toll, and it was just like a wall of Exeter City scarves, cars, coaches. What was it like for you? What was going on?
Oh, it's brilliant. I mean, it for such a small club, a conference club, to actually fly up the day before was really good. And obviously the sponsor at the time was Flybe, so I think we had something going with them, and they flew us up on the Friday, and we ended up staying at Bolton Wanderers, their stadium there.
Is that the new one?
The Reebok. Yeah, we ended up staying there, and I remember Alex Singlethorpe getting us in after dinner and done like a video for us of all our families wishing us the best of luck and stuff like that. When it was quite moving and emotional, and probably for some of us the biggest games of our life, really, to sort of play in front of 67,000 people and one of the best clubs in the world. It's a dream, isn't it? So it's just surreal.
So come on then, you're in the tunnel just before the game. I'm sure you could probably hear about 10,000 extra fans giving it the big one. And what was it like? Were you like thinking, "Whoa, this is a bit crazy"? What's going through your mind at that point?
It's just pure excitement, adrenaline. You started to walk out and you could hear the roar, and by the way, the support that day from the fans was absolutely unreal. I think it was over 10,000. That one end of the ground was just took up, but it's just a goosebumps moment. You walk out, but I think it's funny. A lot of footballers will say and tell you you don't really hear a lot of noise because you're so focused and concentrating on the game and what you're going to do.
Yeah,
everything seems muffled and quiet. It's really odd. It's a really weird feeling.
That's interesting. I was talking to in the first episode of this, Alan Tongue, who played for Exeter, and by fluke, I was at a game at Stoke away, and he talked about in the second half how we did hear them singing Delilah when they equalised, and I was at the away end thinking, oh my God, there's only 50 of us. We're gonna, if we win this game, we need to be careful. So it's all a little bit, going quickly. What are you like half an hour into the game? At one point, did you look at the scoreboard and just go, blimey, we're still 0-0. We're doing all right here.
I think it was actually at half time, and Alex is doing his team talk and bits and pieces like that, and I think we were just sitting there more in amazement that we're still at 0-0. Is this real? Are we dreaming here? What's going on? And I always remember, like, halfway through the second half, we're still 0-0, and I think it was Jonesy's pulling off save after save, and then all of a sudden I look over to the bench and there's about 65 gone, and then you see the three subs coming on, Scholes, Ronaldo and Smith, and I thought, oh no, here we go. And then,
and also the elements were against you as well, weren't they? Because it was hailstorms, snowstorms, rain,
everything. Yeah, it was crazy. And then obviously to hear the final whistle, you look around and you're still at 0-0, and to be there, that's when you hear the crowd, you hear everything that's going on, because it was just absolutely, you guys were going absolutely crazy. I had family in the stands like all the other boys did, and it was just it was amazing. It's a day that I'd never forget, and I'd take to my grave with me, definitely.
And the same for me and personally. And I remember getting there, and there was 50 coaches turning up, and I had tickets for my parents, and my mother never goes to watch football, but she bought a new posh designer outfit for the game.
I love that.
Met us at the statue, and I'm like, right, Mum, you're a bit well dressed. She goes, well, it's a very important game.
I love that.
And then the next thing I see is that the police have put these coaches away, and I was like, oh, that's pretty impressive. And then another 44 coaches turned up, and I remember I stood there counting coaches.
It was quite, honestly. I mean, I've got friends now that were at the game, and they just said the support and the amount of people and like you said, the coaches, and it was absolutely mental. And even like the replay at St James's, you see people like sitting on roofs behind the goal and stuff like that. It's just like proper old school FA Cup tie. I think Alex Ferguson made a comment about, it sort of brought the nostalgia back to the FA Cup, because it seems to have lost its way a bit, that competition. And
but Alex, I think we'll always be grateful to him that if you remember, I don't know if you recall, but he made it a voucher game for their European matches, which is a really wonderful thing that he did. Because in effect, that's why there was 67,000 there. So, and you may not be aware. Are you aware of what happened in the boardroom after the game with the tickets?
No.
Right. God, we could talk for hours on this. I'll get this in. We're going to have to talk about doing another episode about the trust, by the way, and all that side.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I've told this story many times. One of our supporters, trust guys, was in the directors' area, and they were treating them all really well. And we were living hand to mouth, weren't we? And they made a very sensible decision of printing replay tickets, and they took them up with them. And the story goes that they were under the table. The Man United directors are, before the game, treating them like kings. They look down and I go, what's that under the table? And one of our guys nervously went, it's the replay tickets. Now, as you can imagine, we got a replay. I think after the game, they left as nicely as they could and just went, the tickets are under the table.
That's brilliant. Love that.
So after the game, what was it like? Where did you go? What did you do? Did you just try and go back to Exeter? What happened?
Yeah, I mean, we had, it was, you can imagine it was going off in the changing room, and the lads were jumping around and celebrating, and all that carry on, and then, funny enough, they all flew back, but I come back on the family coaches, like the wives and the parents and stuff like that. So because I weren't too keen on flying at the time, so I ended up coming back on one of the coaches. So that was quite good.
were you being applauded in the motorway services like the rest of us were?
I can't remember. I was just so sort of took back with everything that we'd done, and probably more in disbelief what we just achieved, I think.
Yeah, and I remember being in Keele services and getting out of a minibus, and we were on our way back to Oxfordshire, where they all came from that day. I'll never know. But we were getting applauded by the supporters. Well done.
Really?
Yeah. We were like, you should be really proud of yourselves, and it wasn't just you guys that were getting applauded, and probably just like you, we were going, what just happened there? So moving on to the second game, I've got a question for you. It's a bit of a cheeky one, right? Yeah. One of the guys, friends of the show, Bumble, in fact, two people mentioned this when I was doing my research, was how did you feel when you missed that chance when we were at 0-0? Because I think you had a really good chance. Yeah, I can't remember it, to be honest.
Yeah, no, we were 1-0 down.
1-0, sorry.
Ronaldo had scored after 7 minutes, I think it was. Then you had the great nutmegs from Scott Eiley on him, which was absolutely, if you ever get a chance, YouTube that and watch that. It was brilliant. And then, it was in the second half, and I always remember it, Alex Janine got it wide, and I just thought I was just going to try and get myself pull off of, I think it was Gary Neville at the time, off of his shoulder. And just as I pulled off, a great ball in from Alex, and I thought, here we go. And just as I went to, get my shot away, my foot just slightly, you'll see on if you watch it, my foot just slightly goes, and that, makes me sort of pull my shot. But I'm thinking, God, dear, if only. But I've got to say, I did actually score that night. It was offside, but Tim Howard did actually dive, so I will take credit for that one.
Why you just come from the Kevin Nicholson school of competitiveness there. When I was interviewing him last couple of episodes, I got his appearances wrong. He went, no, I actually made 100 appearances there. So, and you're right. You did have a disallowed goal. So, what was it like playing with the United players? So they talk to you afterwards? They cracking jokes during the game, or you just like looking at them thinking, "Oh my goodness, Wayne Rooney's just gone past me"?
I'll tell you what. The first game up there, I mean, when the game was over, I spoke to Phil Neville, and he just went. He said, "It's unreal what you boys have done," and he said, "We just take it. We take our hats off to you. It's incredible." And so what an achievement, and was really sort of humble and really nice with his compliments. And the same with Wes Brown. He just, there was no of this, I'm a Premier League big time player. It was, they sort of just was really complimentary of what we've achieved. And I don't think they could really believe it as well, what we'd just done at a conference club, sort of playing one of the best teams in the world that still had quality players playing. Yes. Internationals playing, established internationals. So you can't say it was their second team. Yes, they changed it around, but some of those players were PKs, Spectres, Neville, Wes Brown, Bellion. The list goes on and on. And then you go to St James's Park, and we played a replay. You've got everyone playing.
Yes,
Scholes, Giggs.
Yeah, he was taking that really seriously that day, wasn't he?
Yeah, Rooney, Ronaldo. And, up until injury time, Rooney goes and scores and makes it 2. Up until then, we're still in the game. And, created some good chances in the first half, if you remember as well.
Yeah, we did. Can I just say, I've got all the newspapers. I don't know whether you collected in. I've got a weird thing about collecting newspapers of various events. And I remember, particularly after the first game at Old Trafford, I proudly went with my shirt on a Sunday, and I bought every tabloid paper that I could. And they're all in the garage, right? Because that's the impact that game had. And it made us a lot of money. I know we haven't spoken about the trust stuff, and we'll get onto that in a second episode, I think, if we may. We made a load of money. Did you see that as a bit of a change around the club? Things got slightly easier at the time, or you didn't really?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, with that sort of income that we generated, it is going to help, and it just steadies the ship for a little while, and things get better at the training ground, and just as a whole, everything lifts and everything picks up. And yeah, it was just as I say, it's like I'm still in dreamland now with that and what we achieved and what the club achieved that day.
And do you know what? I'm still in dreamland just talking to you. And I know they're going to do 2 episodes. I think that we'll talk about the trust bit coming up. I've got a couple of little questions about you. You play for Republic of Ireland B. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, I got a B cap. Yeah, back in '97, I think it was, and was lucky enough to play with the likes of Damien Duff, Robbie Keane. They were young, just coming through. So that was obviously being a sort of lower league player playing in Division 2 to actually get a call up and be amongst Premier League players like Rory Delap was there as well, and being in that environment, coming from where I was plying my trade was a good achievement for me and something again that I'm really proud of to actually represent my country.
And I think the link was your dad's from Dublin, is that right?
Yeah, my dad's Irish. Yeah, he's a Dubliner. Yeah, so obviously you can imagine made his day.
Yeah.
And again another memory that I won't forget.
Cool. Look, love the first episode. Thank you. You've been absolutely brilliant so far.
No, you're welcome. Thanks very much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
And you probably brought back many a happy. Well, I can say you brought many a happy memory back to me, and I'm sure others will say the same. Look, Quad Podders, stay tuned. We're going to do a second one. Thanks for your time to this point, Sean.
No, you're welcome. Thanks very much, Al, for having me on.
Hi again, it's Alistair, just coming to the end of this show. I really do hope that you enjoyed Sean Devine. It is a two-parter. The next bit isn't just his life in football, but his stuff that he's done related to Exeter City and the further on of his career, which would be really, really interesting. Sean Devine, tick that one off the list. He was one of the people that I knew a few people around the show wanted to get on. Right, before we go any further, blatant plug. We've announced it now. An evening with Brian McDermott down at Exeter City at the Heathertree Social Club on the Friday, the 24th of March, the night before the Accrington game. It's going to be a great evening with Brian McDermott, who's going to give us a view of his roadshow that he's been doing, particularly linked to his time in football. And it's a bit gritty. There's a little bits around his alcoholism and mental health challenges while he's been a pro footballer and a pro manager. I've seen the presentation. It is absolutely inspiring, and we'll follow that on with a QA session with him and some selected friends, which will be announced shortly. And for those that aren't aware of Brian McDermott so much, he's an ex-Arsenal player, Exeter City Championship winner in 1989-90. He was also manager of Leeds United, and he was also manager of Reading, a proper football person. So please don't miss that one out. Next thing, City Mick hasn't been on. It's all right, he's coming on. He'll give us an update of where he is. And we'll also, at this point, talk about the transfer window. Now, the time of doing this is about 9 o'clock at night, and I've got work in the morning. But how exciting has it been? Sorry to see Sam Stubbs go. He had a great impact on Exeter City last year, and he's moved back up to the north, to Bradford, so we wish him well. As of this moment, bearing in mind there's 2 hours to go, we've still got Sam Numbe, Giovanni Brown and Josh Key. Fingers completely crossed for that one. Welcome to the club, James Scott, Scottish lad, Glasgow-based Scottish under-21 international from Hull City. Really looking forward to seeing him. And I think he's 6'2". And he joins us along with Kevin McDonald, who is centre-back, 6'4", loads of experience in the Premier League Championship. And I believe he's got a really inspiring story linked to getting over a kidney transplant. Few goodbyes, Tim Dieng. Au revoir, à bientôt, désolé, allez le bleu. Good luck, Tim. I know you're off to Gillingham. I wish you the best. Matt J, Colchester, bittersweet to see you go. Really sad. The one that got away, Jaden Stockley, he's gone off to Fleetwood. He's somebody we'd like to see back at some point, but he's not with us at the moment. So next episode It's the second part of the Sean Devine, and I look forward to you guys downloading at that point. Thanks for coming on the show and listening. It means a lot. Don't forget, YouTube, please subscribe and like. Thanks you for all the people that have done that so far. That's building. Also find us on Twitter, QuatPod. On both channels, you should be able to find it fairly easily. Have a good one, and we'll catch up in episode 7.